All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our most up-to-date live Q&A here at the Berkey. We're excited to have Chris Becker with us. He is a ski tech out at New Moon Ski and Bike Shop, one of our proud Berkey sponsors year-round. Chris, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get into this industry? What's your background?
Yeah, so I have been working as a wax tech and ski tech since I graduated college in 2017. My first 3 years on the World Cup were with Rex Ski Wax as their research and development and one of their wax testers. After Rex, I worked with I got hired on with the U.S. ski team in 2020, and this will be my third full season with the U.S. ski team as a wax tech. So what we do as a wax tech with the U.S. ski team, we're responsible for at the minimum 2 athletes, but it can be sometimes 3 or 4 athletes depending on the given weekend. And we're in charge of all of their wax fleet or their ski fleet, as well as getting product tested for the given race day or race weekend.
Nice. And I'm just curious, how many pairs of skis does an athlete typically show up with on a race weekend?
It definitely depends on the athletes, but like, for example, my 2 athletes right now are Scott Patterson, Novi McCabe. Novi and Scott both have about 40 to 45 pair each. Some of the skiers like Jesse, Rosie, that have been on the World Cup a little bit longer or that have a bigger ski fleet, they're more in the 60 to 65 pair of skis.
That's so impressive. I was thinking you're going to say maybe
too.
Like 5 or 6.
So wow. Yeah, it gets to be every little variable counts for us, and we want to make sure we're getting the right ski, the right grind, the right wax on the snow, because that 1/10 of a second or half a second matters.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to you sharing some of your knowledge and experience with our audience today. And just to let everyone know, Chris is going to be kind of talking through ski selection to start with, and then we're going to move more into the wax conversation, which can become very nuanced and very in-depth. If you have specific questions for Chris, please post those in the comments, and we'll be sure to get those to him. But why don't we jump into things, Chris? Someone's going to walk into New Moon, and they're looking to, get a pair of skate skis. Maybe it's the first time they've been skiing versus more of a seasoned veteran skier. How do you guys go about finding the right fit for someone?
Yeah, so some of the beginning factors that we look into is mainly skier ability level. Are you a brand new skier? Are you looking at getting your second pair of skis? Or are you getting your 10th pair of skis? That plays a big factor into what we're going to try and look for. Are we looking for one ski to do everything? Or are we looking for one ski to fill in a small niche role so that you have maybe 3 or 4 pairs of skis to do several different things? So ability levels and ski quiver will be the first kind of topic of discussion that we have. If they come in and say, hey, I'm skiing in, let's say, for example, Hayward, they come in, 80% of our days are in the teens, single digits, below 0, like it is right now. One ski is going to cover 80% of that range, which would be a cold ski. There's a lot of different cold skis from different brands. You've got the S-Lab Blue ski from Salomon. You've got Fisher. They've got a cold A5 construction ski. Rossi has an S1 ski. Each of those individual brands will bring different characteristics to your ski style. Rossi typically has a little bit higher of a camber, so it'll feel a little more off the snow, and those will be the skis that will track really, really well. They'll be super stable when it's icy, when it's man-made snow. They've just got a really good feeling to keep you going straight and stable. Fisher, Salomon, they're more on the understable side of things. So a little bit squirrelier in the feeling, but they're a little bit lower to the ground. And so they tend to slide better in some of those softer snow days. So you'll see that kind of be an advantage in some conditions, whereas being a little bit more unstable can be a hindrance in some of the hard track days. So there's two different kind of characteristics in those skis. The big thing that you'll see across all the brands is they typically have a cold ski, a uni ski, and a warm ski. In the Midwest, like I said, in Hayward, we use cold skis 80% of the time. Cold ski is kind of a relative term for anything from single to negative digits up to, let's say, 20 degrees, if we're going to put a hard stop on it. The universal skis, those are going to be, let's say, 15 to 20 degrees. So there's going to be an overlap period there, which we'll talk about, up to, say, 30 to 35. And then your warm skis will be 30 to, say, 45. So there's always going to be this overlap period between the different types of skis. And that's why we have so many different skis on the World Cup, is to make sure we have each of those transition periods covered with a different ski, a different grind, a different construction, a different mold. From a lot of, when you shift in from the cold skis to the uni skis, the biggest thing you're going to notice is in the contact zone in the front and the rear of the ski. Cold skis will have longer contact points. So we've got from Rozzy here, this is their cold ski. So this contact point up in the front, you can see my tips aren't splaying very much, and there's a long, solid contact point throughout the ski. As you come up into more of your universal fit skis, like the 610s or 661Ks from Fisher, they will tend to splay a little bit more, and that contact point gets a little bit shorter. So that's one of the main characteristic differences between your cold skis, your uni skis, and they get even shorter and shorter for the warm skis. The other difference is going to be in ski base materials. So you'll have a black base, or we'll sometimes see colored bases. So this is a white base ski. So most of your really warm, wet skis will be either clear, some will be red, some will be white. Every brand does a little bit different base material on their warm side of things, because they have different characteristics in that polyethylene base materials. So just to kind of recap for you, cold skis, longer contact points, universal skis, slightly shorter. Wet skis will have a different base material and extremely short contact points.
So it sounds like, aside from, if you have a pair of skis, maybe you were handed down a pair of skis from a friend, you got into skiing and inherited some gear, which is pretty common in this area. If you've got that different color base, it's pretty safe to assume that might be a warmer ski. Otherwise, doing kind of that squeeze test, is that a good way at home for people to get an idea of what kind of skis they have?
Yeah, that would be a really rough way of saying this would be a cold ski, this would be a warm ski. If you see that tip splay out a lot and there's not a whole lot of contact point, you can sometimes even hold it up to the light and see how much contact is on the ski. That'll give you an idea of whether it's going to be a really warm ski or a really cold ski. The other thing is if you get a hand-me-down from, say, the Midwest, there's a good chance that it's going to be a cold ski. Not many people in the Midwest are going to have that really wet, warm ski, but there's a chance that they might have that universal fit ski.
And if someone has these skis at home and they aren't entirely sure, maybe they got them as a gift, whatever the scenario, can they bring those in and have you guys kind of assess whether that's a good ski for them? What are some of their options? Obviously, they can come in and shop for some new skis. Where do you meet folks?
Yeah, so I like to look at their skis and see kind of what that ski is looking like. A lot of the times I'll try to just compliment those skis if they're going to be in the realm of fitting or working for them. Sometimes those skis are just too soft or too stiff, in which case you'll be either too stable and it'll be hard to control, or it'll be too soft, meaning that it'll be really squirrely and you'll never get that kind of comfortable ski feeling to it. If they bring a ski that comes in and fits, that was a hand-me-down or from a friend, and they want to complement that ski, we can also do that. That's an easy thing for us to kind of dive into and say, hey, this ski looks like it's a good uni ski. If you wanted to complement it with something, let's do a cold ski, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So that will always kind of help either develop the ski quiver of the skier or replace it with something that might be a little faster or fit a little bit better for that same condition.
Mm-hmm. And what is kind of the balance that you're looking at in someone's, I mean, you asked about, how experienced they are when it comes to kind of height and weight and, that aspect of things when people are looking for skis. Is there a cut and dry method, or I'm sure a lot of people are doing their shopping online? Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the brands give us some really easy ways to kind of decipher what skis would be in the realm of working. From Fisher, they give us what's called a FA number on the skis. Each one of them is stamped in on a barcode. If you guys can see that down at the bottom there, this one has an FA of 100. It's also stamped in on the binding plate, if it will focus for me. But on the serial number, Fisher will have a number there. On Razi's side of things, they give us a stickered graph. And on Solomon skis, they will give us a barcode number as well out of the factory. What these will do is that will give us the optimal flex for the skier, give or take about 5 to 10 pounds, or give us a flex for something that might be for a warm ski or a soft ski. It'll also give us a camber height. So not every ski will have that same curve in the ski. So it'll be higher, lower. Then it'll give us some tip pressure readings as well out of those skis. So that's where we will go first, is as a wax tech and as a ski tech, we'll go in and we'll look at those numbers and we'll toss out 7 or 8 pair just based on a couple of numbers. And then we'll take out 2, 3, or maybe even 4 pair and bring them out and put them on the flex tester and see how that works.
And what's the flex tester, just for someone who maybe hasn't experienced that?
Yep. So we've got 2 different methods. One of them is the board that most people end up standing on. So you can shift your weight over from one foot to the other, seeing how those compression points collapse under your weight and your ability levels. The other is we have a press as well. So it's a flat surface that presses in with a hydraulic, and it will measure out the weight in pounds or weight in kilos to compress that ski. And we'll run our feeler gauges that are 0.1 millimeters thick, 0.2 millimeters thick, 0.3 millimeters thick, 0.4 millimeters thick. So really small increments to see how that camber is shaping up based on the pounds that we put in through the press. So I can get a good idea of what the camber is looking like for height, as well as the contact zones in the front and rear, say if that was for an over-the-phone customer. I'll still have a very accurate way of representing their weight and getting an idea of the contact points and how those pressure points feel.
Nice. So it sounds like the companies give you a kind of a good window guesstimate on fit, and then you have these tools in your shop where you can really fine tune and find someone the right set of skis for them.
Exactly.
Nice. Do you have any other kind of basic information regarding ski fit? I know there's some new technologies out there with adjustable bindings. How does that play into ski fit?
Sure. So a lot of the skis are moving, like you said, to those movable or adjustable bindings. That will give you different characteristics to your ski. most of the time on like Rossi and Fisher bindings, we will end up skiing at the -1 position. So what that means is it's 1 centimeter behind the balance point of the ski. What that does is it relieves a little bit of pressure up at the tip of the ski so that it's a little more smooth and can ride over. The more pressure you have on the tip of the ski, the more it will dig in and plow, but it can make it more stable. So if you're on one of those really icy, hard to kind of stay on your skis, we'll tend to move that to 0 or even a +1 setting to give you a little bit more control, where with going backwards is going to get you a little less control. But for those really soft days where you know your ski is going straight, you don't necessarily need to be all the way up in front of that balance point. It's nice to be at that -1, -2 settings at the very most, and it'll be more free and it'll feel a lot better while climbing.
Mm-hmm. It's great options to have. Do you, by chance, I think those are, I don't know if any of those skis behind you have bindings on them that we could show folks just kind of how those move, or?
Sure. I do have some skis here. So with the IFP system, they have a little latch here that is in white. There's a couple of different colors. So the Fisher ones are going to be green. Some of the higher end Rossi bindings might be red, but you'll pull back and it'll open it up. So you'll see a little orange line that shows up, and then we will slide the bindings back. And there is a little window here with some numbers in it. So this will be at the -2 setting right now. We can bump it up to -1, and then we'll go back and lock it in place. So then this binding is fixed back to the ski. So it's a really easy, just open the window up, slide it down or slide it up, and then lock it back into its place.
And do you see out on the US, ski and snowboard, when you're out with these athletes, are they using that style binding? Is that a weight thing? Are they using a traditional binding?
We're using movable bindings on almost every pair of skis. We test every single day whether we like the feeling of -1, 0, +1 for any given day. So that's something, it comes into every single race, is we're testing that binding position. It's one of the last things we do is once we pick our race ski for the day, we'll put it on the feet and say, okay, let's try -1 versus 0, or we'll try 0 versus +1, just depending on if it's an icy snow condition, if it's a normal condition, or if it's kind of a slower, more stable condition. We'll test that binding position, but it's in an everyday format that we'll test it.
And I know you said you've been doing that for 3 years. Is that a relatively new trend, those bindings, or has that been used for a while on the tours? I'm just curious if it's made your guys' job as wax techs, is it easier because maybe you can make those minor adjustments on the same pair of skis instead of needing a whole nother set of skis, or has it not really changed too much?
Yeah, it's been a thing that we've used for the last 6-7 years now, since they've had movable bindings come out. It's always been a factor of something we test for that day, is whether we should move them back or forward. It doesn't add too much to the day. Usually when you move it forward or backwards, within about 100 meters. Like it really doesn't take long to notice, like, hey, this is much better and it's not harming me with stability, or I can't control this ski, I need to have it at this other position. It does, even though it's a small movement in distance, it makes a huge difference in the feeling of the ski, and you can tell it right away.
Nice. And this is a little on topic, but off topic. So on those days that you're there, this testing is happening for the races. Who is on the skis testing them out? I'm envisioning not the racers being on the skis that much before their actual race. What does that look like leading up to an event?
Yeah, so our day as a wax tech will start about 3.5 hours to 4 hours before race time. athlete stays will usually start about an hour 10 to an hour 15 before race time. So in that window, that extra kind of hour 15 that the wax techs have, we will be getting the athlete skis ready for testing. We'll get our product skis ready for testing. When the athletes come out an hour 15 to an hour 10 before the race start, they are joining their specific wax tech for the day to go ski test. Okay. We usually allot 25 to 30 minutes for me and Scott or me and Novi to go out, and we will dial in which skis, which some days I'll have 6 pair of skis if it's a skate day, maybe 4 pair of skis if it's a classic day, to pick through in that half hour. So we need to start knocking some stuff out, skiing them around the course, because they're already warming up anyway, about an hour 10, hour 15. So this is a part of their warm up as well as picking skis for the race day.
Nice. Thank you for painting that picture. I forget these are elite athletes. Their warm up is the length of my entire workout.
Yeah. So they get there an hour 15 before. They'll warm up until about 15, 20 minutes before the race. And then they'll start changing clothes into dry base layers, dry race suits. And then they'll head over to the start line. They'll get ready, their bibs, their transponders on. And then they'll be at the start, and we'll bring skis from the wax room directly to the start for them. So their job is to go out, test a little bit of skis, and then just focus solely on the race. And it's our job as wax techs to get them the fastest skis for that day.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, speaking of having fast skis, why don't we move into more of the wax conversation? I know, like we said, it can get really specific. Do you want to start with just giving folks out there a general understanding of, the styles of waxing out there, what they're good for, the different applications? You're the expert, so I'll defer to you on where you want to start.
Sure. I guess the way I tend to start is it's not necessarily about the wax, but it's about the snow. You got to know the temperature of the snows. You got to know if it's new snow or old snow. You got to know if there's like natural snow or artificial snow. That makes a big difference. Humidity levels, when it's cold, it's dry. When it's warm, it's wet. So all these factors, each one of them plays into effect, as well as what's happened in the last week. With new snow last week, new snow today here in Hayward, we know it's pretty much new snow. Even if the groomers come in and kind of mix up all the snow underneath, it's still going to be relatively new snow. Whereas at the beginning of the season, when we had a lot of man-made snow and we got a small dusting of new snow, they're still mixing it in together. So it's mostly old snow that would be mixed in. That makes a huge difference with ski wax. So before we go into kind of the ski picking, know what you're trying to wax for. Is it new snow? Is it old snow? Is it humid? Is it wet? That being said, there are about 3 to 4 different types of waxes that you'll see. You'll see paraffin powders. So a paraffin powder would be something like this that comes in a powder form. These are non-floral powders. There are liquid waxes that come in aerosols, like this guy here. You have liquid waxes that come in sponges. And then last but not least, you will have block waxes, hot waxes, melt-on waxes. So these two would require an iron to apply, whereas your liquids won't require a heat source or an iron. Where do those two work and where do they not work? Because on our side of things, we try to figure out if there's patterns to things. That way we can assume one thing is better and kind of go down a path. That's what we do with our testing. We try to develop patterns in ski waxes. We, just from the most basic side of things, you're looking at coldest waxes are green, then it goes into blue, into purple, red, then yellow for most brands. Everyone's got some version of that. Some brands are more simple than others to understand. Toko, they have a blue, a red, a yellow. That makes it really easy for a beginning consumer, blue being cold, red being mid, yellow being wet. You go onto the other side of the spectrum with, say, Swix. They have a little bit more complex of a line with a green, a teal, a blue, a purple, a red, the yellow, and then they have a couple of different lines of those. There's not one that's better or worse than the other. My biggest philosophy with ski waxing and the way I started with all of my ski waxing is learn one brand really, really well, learn where it works and where it doesn't. And if you notice, hey, my skis weren't that great today, maybe I should try one thing from a different brand and just branch into one brand. So if you're into Toko and you know the line forward and backwards, stick with it because they've got new products coming out. You can add stuff to it with maybe one Swix wax or one Star wax or one Rex wax and start to add that line in, whatever it might be that you want to add in. And then just now you have two brands. So let's say it's Swix and Toko are your two brands that you're going to be looking at. Then that's a ton to learn. I think you can be a competitive waxer and wax tech in 1 to 2 brands without getting this box of 17 different brands and 19 different waxes. And you can make it very competitive if you know where these work and where they don't.
For, I'm thinking of the folks who might be watching today. Perhaps they're training for the Berkey or the Coeur d'Alene. A lot of our folks are coming from northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, obviously all over the country and world, but a big number of people there. If they're looking to do a lot of their waxing at home on their own, is there a certain line or style of wax that you recommend for someone who's maybe, let's start with just someone who's like me. When I moved away from my family's home and my dad's wax setup, I just started letting ski shops wax my skis. But I know I came in to one of your ladies' nights there at New Moon last year and learned about the liquid waxes. And that kind of gave me a starting point at home. Is that, a general recommendation for people looking to start at home, or where would you point someone?
Yeah, I would absolutely start with liquid waxes from home. That being said, liquid waxes, you will need to hot wax at times. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to just specifically use a liquid wax all year round, 24/7. Bring it in once, twice, maybe 3 times a year to a shop and get some wax melted into the skis as well. It'll help with that, with the longevity of your ski bases. Reason being is that if you use liquid waxes frequently and constantly, those solvents will tend to dry stuff out as well. So you can't just always rely on solvents, but I think it's a fantastic place to start, especially for majority of skiers. You always will have a ski shop that is willing to throw on a hot layer of wax, and you can learn where these liquid waxes work and where they don't. It's really easy to use, and you can go 200, 300, 400K just using liquids. If you clean, brush, reapply, and then if you think, okay, it's starting to turn white, maybe let's bring it in and get a layer of hot wax on it, and then you can restart that cycle again. But it does help to have ironed in wax, but it's not something you need to have at home because it's not super frequent for the beginning skier that you're going to need to hot wax your skis. Mm-hmm. For the more advanced skiers, then I would suggest starting on the liquid side and then developing into getting some of your own hot waxes like a bench, irons, melt on paraffin, that sort of stuff.
And it can appear somewhat intimidating to someone who maybe hasn't done hot wax before. Do you guys offer any clinics, or can you recommend any YouTube videos or anything to help people get started that want to do hot waxing at home?
So one of my favorite things about the Nordic industry is that there is a plethora of knowledge on ski waxing. If you look at the Swix site, the Rex site, Toko, Start, Star, every single one of these brands, they will have YouTube pages with how to apply their waxes, what the best kind of application method is for everything. So it makes it really easy as a resource to go back and say, okay, I've really liked watching some of the videos that are out there from this brand. That's the brand that I tend to lean in towards. So my suggestion for most people, if you buy from a shop out east, if you buy from a shop out west, if you buy from New Moon, that's your resource. Those guys are there to help you. Ask them questions. Ask them when to use liquids, how to use liquids, how to apply melt on paraffins. We will help you out. That's why we're here, is to come help you guys out.
Awesome. We did have some specific questions come in. One is asking if you could talk about wax drying times from cold to warmer snows.
Mm-hmm. So with drying times, liquids, I tend to tell you, is longer the better. The same can be said for melt on paraffin. So there are some studies out there that have showed the speed differentials between leaving a wax on there to cure longer is almost always better. So if you let it dry for 10 minutes versus 1 hour versus 1 day versus 3 days versus 7 days, typically in reverse order, it's 7 days is the fastest, then 3, then 1, then 1 hour, then 10 minutes. The longer it's on there, the more time it has to cure, the more time it will coat the surface of that ski. So the longer, the better. Minimum, I would say, for most brands and companies is 15 minutes. If you can give it a half hour, that would be great. Overnight probably would be my overall suggestion to the general consumer. For some people that are in the racing circuit, it doesn't work. Like for us, we're testing skis with athletes an hour, 15 minutes before the start. I don't have a half hour to wax the skis for one layer of liquid wax. Mm-hmm. So we kind of plan ahead. We'll take a guess the night before. We'll also test what the fastest thing is for the same day, and we might just end up running on what we've got for that day, or we'll overlap it with something that was a little bit faster, because in the long run, that thing that was there overnight will at least be a very good base for you for durability the next day.
So that might play into, I'm thinking about folks who are rolling into Hayward on Thursday and they're going to be skiing the Berkey on Saturday. If they've maybe waxed at their home base, wherever that is, kind of that guesstimate that you're referring to. Do you guys offer, well, I know the answer to this, but can you tell me about some of the wax services you guys offer around Berkey for people to really get that fine-tuned wax, and how do they go about scheduling that or getting on your list?
Yep. So we have Berkey waxing already in our system and set up, so you can call us at any time and we'll get you into our queue for Berkey waxing. You just have to let us know what race you're doing and what day you're going to pick them up here at the shop, and what time you're going to drop them off for us to wax. Typically, we want to have them for about 2 to 3 days to get everyone in line, because we're going to have a couple hundred people asking for skis to be waxed here. So it's a good thing to be on top of it, but you can also ask us from afar if you want to wax them from home. There's recommendations that we send out. We'll talk to people over the phone and give them our recommendations of what we're going to do here in the shop, as well as another good resource is on skinnyski.com. They have a full tab that has race recommendations for almost every weekend with the several different brands. I know Start's a part of it. I know Toko's a part of it. I know Swix is a part of it. There's just a lot of different brands out there that will give race recommendations, even for like the JOQ races, the CCSA races, the Sealy Hills Classic, Berkey. Most of these brands will help you with a recommendation if you're unclear for what you should go with.
Nice. Good resources. We'll try to put some of those in the comments so people can go check those out. But skinnyski.com, definitely one that we've worked with quite a bit. They put out great information. So thanks for mentioning that, Chris.
Yep.
Another question: what form of wax between the liquid, powder, and hot wax is best for the speed layer? So really.
Ooh, That's a good one. I would say for the cold, dry temperatures, I would go something melt on. For the warm, humid days, I would go something liquid. The reason being, and this is getting really nerdy, but with heat, it pulls up structure in the ski. It will essentially bring up some of that plastic base, and as you're scraping it, it'll knock it down a little more, smoothing the base of your ski out, in turn making a smaller, finer structure to your ski will tend to speed it up. In the warm weather, you kind of want to do the opposite. You want to keep that structure intact. You want it to be deep. You want it to be clean and clear. So those liquid waxes, you're not heating the base. It's not pulling up PTEX material. You're not scraping and knocking it down. So most times we can assume that a liquid is typically faster for warm conditions, and something melt on or heated on is typically faster for cold conditions. That is not 100% guaranteed, but it is kind of that trend that we see. So we'll test more liquid stuff when it's warm and more heat-oriented stuff when it's cold.
Nice. Well, I will take your word on that. And yes, nothing is 100% guaranteed in the wax world, that's for sure. We've all experienced that once or twice or more as a cross-country skier. Another question, if you're using a base liquid cleaner, do you re-wax like you're starting with a brand new pair of skis?
So I think this is referring to a glide cleaner, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm guessing so.
Yeah, so glide cleaners will essentially start from scratch. It will give you a good, most glide cleaners have a two-part system to it. So they have wax in it and there's solvents in it to break down dirt, grime, stuff that you might have picked up from your previous ski. So just the one I've got right next to me, this glide cleaner from Rex, is actually the same as their RG purple or the pink. The difference is going to be in the solvents that are in that wax. So the solvent in the cleaner is going to be a little bit more abrasive. It's going to break down more of that dirt that your ski has collected over time, whereas your waxes will have solvents to carry and apply to the ski. So most of the brands, Vouti is almost identical in that respect. They have the cleaning glide, which is very similar to their Vouti cold, where the paraffin is the same. The wax that's in there is the same, but the solvents are different. So it'll help clean the surface a little bit better. Whereas the waxes will obviously adhere to the base better.
Makes sense.
And then you'll layer your waxes for wax of the day after that.
We have this isn't really a question, but I'll just share it for your sake. Scott Johannick said he's looking for a Chris Hecker wax service for his Berkey this year. Elite wave or bust. Good luck, Scott. We hope you have an awesome ski this year. One question, I think this might be a little more towards classic skiing, but that's all right. We can, both. So in terms of the skis that have skins, how often and difficult is it to replace those skins? Could you speak briefly to that question that came in from Gary?
That is a really good question, and it's actually way easier than you'd think. It takes us about 1.5 to 2 minutes here at the shop to replace a pair of skins. All you have to do is get a heat source. So a lot of the times you can use even just a hair dryer or a heat gun to heat up the glues that are underneath that skin, and they'll peel right out. And then we have replacement skins here at the shop that are in different lengths. So we got to make sure we get it correct for the skin ski. And it will lay in with a new, kind of a adhesive that's already attached to that replacement skin. And you just lay it flat back into the insert or the cutout of the ski, and you're good to go.
Nice.
So it takes no time.
That's awesome. Yeah, talking about innovations in skiing, I have to imagine for classic skiing, that's been a pretty monumental change and a good adaptation to help people get out there quick without having to think too much about wax.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. It's really easy to just throw a pair of skis on now and go ski and have good kick. Whereas before, if you miss the kick or if you don't have the right thing on the ski, it can be a miserable day.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm learning all of those things this winter, starting to classic ski after being a lifelong skate skier. So learning about kick and glide zones and all that fun stuff. I got an education when we were on here with Pioneer talking about classic waxing. It scared me a little
Exactly.
bit, but
I would
another question came in from Sally Meyer. With all of the new snow and cold temps happening right now, what liquid wax would you recommend?
Oh, that's a really good one. Um, there's probably a couple that I would suggest. And again, it comes back to what brand of waxes you're used to and comfortable using. From the Toco side of things, I'd probably lean towards the blue liquids. The Star side of things, I would go into the Star Polar. From Rex, I would do the kind of the G41. It's a pink colored one. From Vouti, I would look at the Race New Snow Cold. If I have to pick just one, I'm not sure I could. I'd probably lean towards either uh, the Vouti Race New Snow Cold or the Rex 41. Just based on some testing that we've done in the past in cold snow, that's kind of where I would go if I had to guess one. But it could be any of those four, and I'd have to test to guarantee it.
A theme throughout this conversation. You got to try it out. You got to see what's working where you're at. So lots of preparation goes into the sport. I'm curious, Chris. We kind of we've talked about the wax that you're doing throughout the season. When people are thinking about base grinds or different kind of specialty services, how often do you recommend something like that? What are the options? Is that something you guys do in-house at New Moon?
Yeah, I think grinding your skis is one of the most important things you can do for the longevity of your ski. A flat ski, a clean structure is really important. And I don't think people understand how much of a difference it can make, especially for not only the durability of your wax, but also for the speed of your ski. If you have a really clean structure, you can put waxes on there and they'll last longer. If you have a really broken structure or it's clogged or it's muddied up, those waxes won't last as long. Your skis will slow down much faster. And so having a good, clean structure is really, really important. After the grinding side of things, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is that something once a year? If you're training for a big race, do you get that done maybe a few weeks before your race? How frequent of a service or how frequently should you do that?
So it's going to depend on the amount of skiing and waxing that you're doing to your ski. The more you heat up the bases, scrape it down, that sort of stuff, the more uneven and clogged that structure is going to be. That being said, the more frequently you grind your skis, the easier it is, the less passes we have to do with a grinder. So a lot of companies will offer a refresh grind. So if it's a recent grind and you want to just clean it up a little bit, it's much easier for us to flatten the ski and put that structure back on. And so it extends the longevity. So I usually say, let's get your skis in within a year or two. Just give them a check. We'll see how flat they are. Most shops, again, you've mentioned Pioneer, but Gear West does it. Finsisu does it. We do it. There's so many good shops here in the Midwest and out east and out west that don't have no problem looking at your ski and suggesting whether we need to refresh grind, not grind it, or get a full grind on there.
Yes. So talk to your local ski shops, folks. They know this stuff. They'll help you out, whether you're here in Hayward or Twin Cities or out west, all over. We had a question come in from Kirby. How much difference in ski speed will a top coat like Rex and Kinetic make, putting it on top of their spray on?
So there's a lot of different top coats that are starting to come out from different brands. So the N Kinetic Wax from Rex. There's the TS line from Swix, which has been really good. They've got liquids and blocks. There is a difference in those waxes. They do add some performance benefit to your racing side of things. It's hard to quantify how much. Is it 1%? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Because it changes every day. But they are faster. They are better in 90 to 95% of that day in that condition. So it's just kind of up to you whether you want slightly faster skis, because it's almost a guarantee that it will be faster. It's just hard to quantify how much.
Mm-hmm.
That same thing can be said for powders and florals and blocks and stuff. They were never 50% faster or 20% faster. It was still that kind of marginal, like this is going to be just slightly better, maybe a half a ski length faster or a full ski length faster in one downhill, but everyone still took that advantage and said, yep, I want it. Because who wouldn't?
Right. Yep. I know when we did a live Q&A with Team Berkey last year, and one of the athletes, she said, never ditch free speed. And that you could equate that to a top coat. If you're, I don't know if I'd call it free speed, but more or less.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're looking to have that competitive edge, it's not a bad thing.
Exactly.
All right. So we've been going for a while, Chris. I know we talked about this before we hopped on. This is a very in-depth conversation. Obviously, folks can come in and chat with you or some of the other techs at New Moon. They can, give you guys a call if they're looking to have their skis waxed before the Berkey or Stone Ground, any of that stuff. I guess in parting, do you have any final words of wisdom for folks as we head into this fantastic new snow? That I know our trail guys are out there working really hard to get the trails cleared. I think by the end of the day today, they're hoping to have all the way from Berkey Trailhead all the way south groomed. Those trails taking them, a good week to get cleared. A lot of branches were down, trees, slow going, but they're getting there. So yeah, any parting thoughts for folks on their skis and wax to get out there and enjoy?
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I would say is, and I think I've already said it once, but the Nordic industry is really easy to find resources if you want it. There's ski shops, there's videos, there's lots of different people that will give you lots of different opinions. But talk to your ski shops, talk to your friends, people that know the industry, and there's a lot of resources out there to help you with videos. Calling us here at the shop, like I've talked to people, just what are you going to use for the Houghton J and Q last week, and I had 5 or 6 people send me an email or call the shop. There's always going to be a ski shop out there to help you, and you can just give us a call. We're not there to sell you something. We're there to help you as a resource as well.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be part of such a supportive community. So thank you for all that advice you give to folks over the phone, everything you've shared with us today. For anybody watching this maybe later on after the fact, if any questions went unanswered, please feel free to comment. I'll try to reach out to Chris and get some answers for you there. In the meantime, if you're looking for some fun events coming up here in the Hayward area, we do have the Berkey Tour happening on January 21st. So that'd be a good one if you want to come up here, see what the snow's like leading into the Berkey season. We're going to actually we've added a new night race into that event. So you can just tour and check out the trail during the day. And then we're going to have some races by headlamp that night around the new and improved Mount Telemark trails. So check that one out on January 21st. And our first ever Ski to Ski will be the week after. So that's a women's only ski camp and races. We're going to have a 10K, 20K, and 30K. So a lot of fun things coming our way. Visit the shop over at New Moon when you guys are in town, and tell Chris and team hi when you're there. In the meantime, enjoy the holidays. We'll see everyone out on the trail. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys.